Welcome to Walrus Street, Walrus here. And today I want to talk about what Palantir is and why I bought in big. Before we get started, just remember, I am not a financial professional. All the information in this video is for entertainment purposes only. I'm just a guy in front of a camera and a microphone talking about what he likes. All right, let's get started. When I'm interested in purchasing a stock, there are four things that I look for. Who's in charge? What does it do? What's the product? What are the financials of the company? And who else is buying in? Now, for Palantir, this is a company that's been around for 17 years. I knew they were a software company, something with big data. I didn't know anything more than that until I looked into them. So, number one, who's in charge? The CEO is Alex Karp. What I know about him, what I've seen on interviews on YouTube, he's a very charismatic guy. People like that are typically good with clients. His political views. Usually I don't think about political views, but you'll see why this actually matters. So he describes himself as a socialist, a progressive, said he voted for Hillary Clinton, didn't like Donald Trump, and despite all that, he said technology companies like Palantir have an obligation to support the US military. You'll see later, Palantir has a lot of Department of Defense contracts, and even though he's a progressive liberal, he's still okay with supporting the military. Interesting. The chairman is going to be one Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, most people know from PayPal. He's one of the wealthiest people in the world, and he co-founded Palantir. One of the things about Peter Thiel, he's a conservative. He's openly conservative. And he also caused a little bit of bad press for Palantir because, his exact quote, Peter Thiel envisioned Palantir as providing data mining services to government intelligence agencies that were maximally unintrusive and traceable. Palantir is not a data miner. So that brings us to point number two. What is Palantir? Palantir's business model, this is from a Medium article. It is not a data company, all right? It's not a data broker, not a data aggregator. They don't collect anything. Palantir is a software company. We build digital infrastructure for data-driven operations and decision-making. Our products serve as the connective tissue between an organization's data, its analytics capabilities, and operational execution. Okay, that's pretty good. I saw another metaphor describing Palantir as a plumber. They don't make the pipes. They don't pump and purify the water. They just make sure everything's running smoothly, everything's connected, there's no leaks. Kind of makes sense. I like it. Here's another one. This is an interview with one of the Palantir forward deployed software engineers. I don't know anything about coding, software, nothing like that. But once again, easy to understand metaphor. In the hands of an FDSE, Palantir's products, Foundry and Gotham, are ready-built playgrounds that empower us to be flexible and efficient in how we solve problems. Palantir has two products, Foundry and Gotham. Foundry is for the private ones, the corporations, the companies. Gotham is going to be for your government scale operations, your DoD, your military, civilian government. Another interesting thing in this article is this software engineer recently worked on a COVID-19 response initiative. Palantir has been partnered with several governments. We'll get more on this in a moment. But regarding the COVID response for hotspot alerts and potential vaccine logistics when the vaccine's released. One more. What is Palantir? If we go to their website and we look at our solutions, Palantir offers solutions for all of these industries. I'm going to not read them, but I am going to scroll through. And you can see these industries are not remotely related. And that's part of the appeal of Palantir. And that's one of the reasons I feel it's going to be incredibly successful. It bridges industries. It takes big data that's been collected for years in all of these industries and helps companies make sense of it, to allow them to more efficiently run their companies. They could save money. Palantir DPO'd back on September 30th. DPO is a direct public offering. That's another thing that I like. A direct public offering is usually used when a company doesn't need to raise extra funds. If they wanted to do that, they would IPO instead. A DPO instead allows stockholders of the company, which have been holding these stocks for 17 years, these are the employees, to sell the stocks faster and kind of cash back on that investment they've made into the company. Their earnings report was last week, and in my opinion, it was absolutely stellar. A few things describing the company I want to go through with the earnings report really quickly. This is a 40-page PDF. I will link it below the video. An energy supermajor deployed our ERP suite. Within 2 weeks, they generated 57 million of cash savings and expect to generate 1 billion on an annualized basis. If you've been following the economy for the last year, you know that the energy sector has tanked. There was the Saudi Arabia-Russia oil thing, the virus stopping travel, oil dropped, bottomed out. At one point, people had to pay to take oil. Another interesting point was with the military contracts. Palantir signed a 2-year, $91 million contract with the U.S. Army Research Laboratory. They actually won a lawsuit against the DoD for this contract. The DoD was not able to build their own proprietary software and instead was forced to use Palantir's. I like that kind of power. We also have coronavirus efforts, and Palantir is being used to help logistics supply chains in the US, for the NHS in the UK, in Japan, and in Colombia. So that's already 4 countries right there that are employing Palantir to help with the logistics of vaccine distribution. In their PDF from earnings report, if we take a look at page 23, you can see the revenue growth here, 52% year on year from the first 3 quarters of 2019 to 2020. Revenue growth is great. This one I found very interesting on page 24. Their average revenue per customer is up 38% from 4.2 million to 5.8 million. This company has customers with really deep pockets. If we keep going through this, another one that I thought was quite interesting, on page 27, the commercial revenue. So this is for the private sector. This is with Foundry. The commercial revenue is up 35%, but the government revenue is up 68%. Something interesting about Palantir, the reason that I mentioned the political affiliations of the founders before, it doesn't matter which party is in office, this company is going to be able to work with them. Palantir is the company that helped the DoD find Osama bin Laden, but that was under the Obama administration. Now, we've got an Army contract signed, several Army contracts signed under the Trump administration with Palantir. When you have the liberal and the conservative in your upper management, they're willing to do business or find a way to do business. It's perfectly balanced. If we keep scrolling through, we've got revenue from customers acquired in the 9 months. This is just new customer revenue. It's up 175%. That's absolutely nuts year on year. The last thing I want to look at is the balance sheet. 1.8 billion in cash and cash equivalents. The debt's not on here, but last I saw the debt was around 350 million, so about 0.35 billion. Now, if we go back to some of the other financials, let's take a look here. Here's the candlestick chart. This is their DPO date on September 30th. You could see it was released at about 9.50, ended up dropping down about 9. And it just kind of stayed in this $10 range for a long time. And there wasn't really much happening until the beginning of November. It started climbing, it started ascending, and here we are today. I think the highest I've seen it get is a little above 19, maybe 1902. The volume right now is just nuts. It's almost 2 times average volume. I did see it go up to about 2.2 times average volume a couple days ago. So there's a lot of excitement for this stock. The earnings report had an earnings beat by 7 cents. Projected was about 2 cents a share. Reported was 9 cents a share. For a company that's releasing its first earnings report, that's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big beat. The company did suffer a net loss of $853 million. This company is not profitable yet. They are earning revenue. Now, one thing I found online is that most of this loss is from stock payouts. And once the employees can release their shares, the cost in this form is going to be decreased for Palantir, and they're going to probably be profitable very shortly thereafter. So probably the Q1 earnings report of 21, they're going to be showing a profit. Another thing about the stock release from the employees, it's going to happen in February of 2021. So the stock price should flatten or even decrease a little bit around that time. So I'll be looking to add more to my position around then. My last point, who's in it? I like to chase the money. First one is going to George Soros. All right, so George Soros and the Soros Fund Management are actually the largest percent shareholders outside of the company. And there's been a lot of publicity the last couple of days because the fund is selling their shares. The exact quote was, Soros Fund Management does not approve of Palantir's business practices. SFM made this investment at a time when the negative social consequences of big data were less understood. Soros Fund Management would not make an investment in Palantir today. Huh. There's a conscience. Okay, so some of the other investors. Stephen Cohen's Point72 Asset Management, Anchorage Capital. These are big name funds. Daniel Loeb's Third Point. Also, Kathy Wood's ARK. ARK is an innovation ETF, and they have a huge stake now in Palantir. One of the other things that I saw that was really cool, this is on Option Millionaires subreddit on Reddit. Palantir large sweep call at the Ask. Palantir January 21st, $23 calls, 2,414 contracts. So that's about 250,000 shares being swept at the asking price for $23 calls in January. When these funds have that much confidence to be putting these calls out there at the asking price, you can almost be assured that there's going to be positive movement. Let's kind of put my money where my mouth is. Show you the receipts. I'm going to show you my positions right now in Palantir. All right, let's take a look. We're in Robinhood right now. Taking a look at Palantir. Right now it's valued about $18.42 per share. Earlier this week, if you remember, I did take out one contract. I sold a put at about $14.50. I wanted to close this out because it was down in price, down to about $1, and I wanted to put my cash elsewhere. But this is kind of interesting. When I went to close out my put, buy that put back, boom, boom, buy $1, I can't. Palantir options below $3 trade in 5-cent increments. And no, I don't want to update my limit price from 1 to 5 because that would cut into the premium that I've received for this. So my Palantir puts are just going to stay until expiration. I'll be happy with the premium that I got earlier this week. Now, my primary investment vehicle is M1 Finance. I did make my purchase on Palantir through M1 Finance, and you could see my average share price was $16.79. I did get in pretty late compared to other people. This is mostly because I was waiting to see kind of which heavyweights, which funds were in. I put in about 5,000, $16.79. I've got about 298 shares. I am going to bring that up to an even 300 just because I like even numbers. But here you go. This is my holdings right now for Palantir in M1. All right, there you have it. That's where I'm at. I'm planning on adding more to my position, especially if it drops to about $13 a share, which it looks like there might be a little bit of support there. Other than that, I'm going to let it ride up and reassess in February when the stocks get released. There are a lot of really strong points about this, and I think one of the strongest is the defense contracts with the DoD. If you look at the other companies that are big DoD partners, Lockheed Martin and Boeing, Northrop Grumman, these companies are incredibly stable. Yes, I know Boeing had the 737 MAX issue, but they didn't go anywhere. The DoD contracts are firm. And also, when you see these funds putting in these huge amounts of money, it kind of sets a floor for the shares because these funds are very rarely going to sell their stocks and pay the taxes on the sale in any short order. It kind of sets a floor, and I feel like anywhere in this area is a safe entry point. Yeah, so that's it. That's Palantir in a nutshell. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.